Respected elder brothers and sisters and rest of brothers and sisters. I always use this word, brothers, sisters. I really believe 7 billion human beings on this planet are actually part of human community. Same way we born, same way we die. While we alive, most precious thing is warm-heartedness. That brings inner strength, inner peace, and also create peaceful community. So, I actually try to educate people or share with people as much as possible to know the ultimate source of happiness is within ourselves, not on money or fame. So therefore, here I always also believe and also share with other people, we need a sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings. Different faith, different nationality, different color, and rich and poor. It's secondary. Basically, we are same human being. Now, these days I have sort of 4 commitments. Number 1 commitment as a human being, promote basic human value on the basis of scientific finding. Now, number of scientists, they found constant anger, hatred, actually eating our immune system. And basic human nature, since we are social animal, so basic nature is more compassionate. So that's the basis of our hope. Now what is we are lacking is existing education system. I usually call modern education. Is introduced from West. So the Western people, Judeo-Christian countries, they are, as far as spiritual field is concerned, only pray to God. Now, that's inadequate. Now, warm-heartedness, in order to keep warm-heartedness and in order to increase warm-heartedness, we must utilize human brain, not just faith. As I mentioned earlier, now scientists, number of scientists, you see, mentioned that. So we are not talking about next life or heaven or what's the kasa karma, tarva.
Salvation.
Oh, like that, nirvana. Simply, day-to-day life, everybody want happy life. So ultimate source of happiness is within ourselves. More compassionate mind, then that person automatically, you see, reduce anger, suspicion, frustration, these things automatically reduce. So therefore, now in education, we should include education about our mind. And now this country, not new, over 3,000 years, concept of ahimsa, concept of karuna already developed. Now I think this country, during British rule, they also introduce the modern education. Wonderful. However, they do not know. Only prayer, otherwise you see training of mind, they do not know. So now, India's existing education should combine with 1,000-year-old India's education, how to tackle our emotion. So India is the only nation who can combine education about materialistic oriented education and including science, technology, very important, very good. At the same time, ancient India's education about ahimsa, karuna, through training of mind and full knowledge tackle our destructive emotion. That is India's tradition. Now that must combine with modern education and these ancient sort of Indian knowledge. So now my third or second responsibility is the promotion of religious harmony, and third regarding Tibet, and fourth now I am trying to revival of these ancient Indian knowledge in modern India, combine modern education, which oriented materialistic sort of thing, and then ancient Indian knowledge about mind. These should combine. And India, 1,000 years, you have the tradition of secular. Wonderful. Whether you say believer or non-believer, I believe in this religion, that's personal matter. As a human being, we need education, knowledge about our mind. Then this country, these things are not something like bring something new. No. India's own tradition. Only question is revival. So that's my sort of fourth commitment. Now here, real change in the world will only come from a change of heart. So now here, according to materialistic sort of education, knowledge, when we mentioned mind or chit, only sensorial level, not chit or mental level. So materialistic life, materialistic culture, through materialistic education, whole sort of people who come through that kind of education, is they are sort of the concept of happiness, joyfulness, only related with 5 senses of organs. Seeing something nice, hearing some beautiful music, and taste, and smell, and touch, including sex. These are sensorial level, not mental, sixth mind, mental level. So anger, compassion, these are on the level of sixth mind. So we need special training, special training about mental level, how to keep peace of mind. Pray or recite something not sufficient. We must utilize human brain, and through human intelligence, through that way, we have fuller knowledge. Such emotion are very destructive. It is antidote within our own mind. So realize that and pay more attention to strengthening these positive emotion, then automatically destructive emotion reduce. So only question of healthy mind, and through that way, healthy body. So now, in that respect, in India, over 1,000 years, you see, really paying more attention about mind. So practice of shamatha, single-pointed mind, and also the analytical meditation, vipassana, over 3,000 years in this country. So, single-pointed mind sort of bring our mental energy more channelized. And the main mind increase the ability to focus one, then your main mind focusing that more seriously, then senses of organs become more neutralized. Right? And then the very purpose of shine or shamatha is sharpening or ability of mind wherever you want to concentrate. You see, the meditation is very helpful to Kasoda. Anyway, to stability. Then analytical meditation, analyze. Vipassana. Vipassana really, you see, change our sort of our mind, our belief, our attitude. So, in Buddha Dharma, of course, you see, the Sangha philosophy also is tremendously sort of practice these things. And the Jains also, you see, very much sort of you practice these things. So Jainism, ahimsa, wonderful. Then after that, Buddha come. And also, you see, actually all major orderist tradition carry the same message of love, message of tolerance, message of self-discipline. The differences, now theistic religion believe God, creator. Non-theistic religion, like one part of Sangha philosophy, no creator. Jainism, no creator. Buddhism, no creator, but rather self-creation. So the emphasis, how to train our mind, how to tackle our destructive emotion. So in Buddhism, after Buddha, there are many scholars, eventually some different traditions, school of thought. And then gradually Nalanda institution developed. So I usually do not use the word Mahayana and Hinayana. It creates something wrong impression. The Theravada is the foundation of Buddha Dharma. Usually we call Hinayana. Then Sanskrit tradition, Mahayana. No, the Sanskrit tradition is entirely based on Pali tradition. Without a Pali tradition, you see, we can't carry Sanskrit tradition as a Buddhist sort of practice. So, Pali tradition, very important. But Pali tradition, mainly, you see, based on Buddha's quotation. And then Nalanda tradition, you see, use analytical meditation, analyze. Buddha himself, you see, told us, "O my follower, monks, scholars, should not accept my teaching out of faith, out of devotion, but rather thorough investigation and experiment." So Nalanda tradition exactly follow that advice. So, many Nalanda masters analyze some Buddha's own teaching. After they analyze through reasoning, they found some contradiction. So they reject even Buddha's own word. That's Nalanda tradition, like Nagarjuna and Aryadeva, Buddha Palita. These people make distinction. This Buddha's teaching we can accept literally. This Buddha's teaching we cannot accept because so investigate through reason we find contradiction. So Buddha taught that particular audience, according to their mental disposition, Buddha taught that we cannot accept that. So that's quite unique, the Nalanda master. So I usually say Pali tradition and the Sanskrit tradition, not use Hinayana and Mahayana, and also I think a Nalanda tradition, meaning Sanskrit tradition, but sometimes I feel not necessary. They use the Nalanda word. Nalanda, then people get the impression, some connection with Buddhism. So simply, Sanskrit tradition. Many ancient non-Buddhist scholars, they also wrote in Sanskrit language. So at that time, Sanskrit language considered more educated people, sort of scholarly language. So like Nagarjuna and these Nalanda master, they use Sanskrit text, Sanskrit word. So it is quite clear. Pali tradition, Sanskrit tradition, not necessarily just Buddhism, but all ancient Indian sort of scholars use Nalanda, the Sanskrit language. So now, as I mentioned earlier, the difference is Pali, mainly quotation, based on quotation. Sanskrit tradition, analyze. So now today, when we discuss with scientists, according Sanskrit tradition, it's very easy to learn each other. And the number of scientists really sort of they find useful about this knowledge in Sanskrit tradition. I think mainly psychology, about mind. Sometimes I sort of use, express this way, the modern psychology, compare ancient Indian psychology. Modern psychology looks like kindergarten level. The Asian Indian sort of psychology, highly developed. So now, in order to develop peaceful mind, this knowledge which exists in Sanskrit tradition, very, very useful. Then the logical approach. As a sort of student of Sanskrit tradition, in our mind, whenever we come across something, we never say, yes, yes. We always, why? That's very important. So they raise, why? Then investigate, reason. Yes, sir. Then, you see, our intelligence no longer sort of room. Why? Then plenty of room. Investigate. So therefore, according to my own sort of little experience, meeting with modern scientists, mainly in psychology and physics, and particularly quantum physics, we are very similar. once the Raja Ramana, late Raja Ramana, as he told me, quantum physics in West, something new. In this country, 2,500 years ago, already developed quantum physics. It is very true. So, it is quite useful in order to tackle emotion. Or emotion, destructive emotion, very much based on appearances and some kind of grasping, or there's something absolute true. Then attachment and anger, this come. So once we realize there is differences, appearance and reality, and that strong grasping, that automatically become weak. Now some quantum physicist, quantum physics student, already you see getting that kind of experience. That's exactly Nagarjuna mentioned. And many Buddha's quotation mentioned Tsumi Yigitwana Yungorasati.
Yes. So our grasping at things as if they have some absolute existence it happens because of our what is known as called inappropriate mentation.
So, here I want to share with you one of my secret. That is when I met scientists, and when they explain about quantum physics, then I really sort of listen humbly. But in my mind, I feel I know better. Actually, you see, we, in Tibetan tradition, according the instruction of Shanta Rakshita from Nalanda, we extensively, you see, study these sort of knowledge. So, the Vibhashik, not much talk. And Sotantik, also not much, but little. Then Chitta Mantra and Madhyamika extensively, you see, explain about differences, appearance and reality. So we study several years and also meditate. Therefore, actually we know better like that. So therefore, these is a concept very useful. Then, psychology and quantum physics. Then, kasa,
Neurobiology.
Or neurobiology, and particularly in tantric sort of study, explanation about our inner energy, how to control these things. So we have sort of plenty of sort of material to discuss with the modern scientists, and they also appreciate to learn from Buddhist psychology or these Buddhist philosophy, these things. So we both, our principle is why. So investigate. Therefore, now some Chinese scholars, they found Tibetan Buddhism is true Nalanda tradition, and that tradition is a very scientific religion. Some Chinese scholar, they express that. So it is true. So the Sanskrit tradition, I think really is immense help to bring ability about our mind to investigate. So therefore, now these are Indian tradition. So modern India, now I notice there's more and more people really showing interest about ancient Indian knowledge. So now this university also now really have some program and have close contact with some Tibetan scholar. So and many other places in the Chandigarh University, I saw talk, and then different places, more and more Indian now really showing interest about ancient Indian knowledge. So this is not something like bring from outside. No, India's own tradition. So only question is revival and combine modern education and ancient Indian knowledge, like that. So then, when we talk about ancient Indian knowledge, I often, you see, sort of teasing my Indian friend, this physical, not Indian, Tibetan, but my mind more Indian than those modern educated Indian. They do not know these things. So this is nothing special for me. But thousands, you see, I think scholar, mainly a monk. Nowadays, nuns also become now coming, more and more scholars, and also because of bhikshuni. So, in any way, in the Karnataka state, I think at least over 1,000 monk students who really study these things, at least in order to become a scholar, at least 20 years study. And in the past, in Tibet, 20, 30 years study. The root text learned by heart. Myself also, about I think 6, 7 years old, I already start memorize these root text. Then explanation, each word, according commentary, mainly Indian master. And then, of course, later Tibetan masters. I took over 10,000 volumes wrote by Tibetan master. Then we extensively use debate, logical approach. It's very, very useful, sharpening our mind, and quite sort of, because the person who study logic, then their mind always something, because of the sharp, very useful. So some Chinese tradition, these Buddhist meditation, they consider meditation is more important. Of course, no question, meditation is important, but equally important is study. So some Japanese monastery, sometimes I suggested, your monastery should become learning center, more discussion, not just a meditation. So now more and more Buddhist countries, particularly follow our Nalanda tradition, now they begin to feel study is something important. One of my close, very respected abbot, one Japanese monk, abbot, wonderful. Since we become very close friend. So he once told me, every Japanese recite the Paramita Sutra, Shirunyimu, Heart Sutra. Then he said, without knowing the meaning. So he appreciated my explanation, very useful. So he expressed to me like that. These sort of important sort of text, just something like ritual, not study. Study is very important. Now in Tibet, I think, as I mentioned earlier, firstly Shantarakshita, and then Kamalashila. They really, you see, put emphasis, study is important. So during Kamalashila, you see, he carried debate with Chinese meditationer, and Kamalashila, and witnessed by Tibetan king, Chusung Tsen. So through debate, then Kamalashila, of course, naturally more sort of scholar, so he can reasoning. So then some of those Chinese meditationer who oppose study, expel from Tibet, like that. So I think today's world, today's Buddhist world, we Tibetan, only Tibetan kept these Nalanda tradition through serious sort of study and use logical approach. So now, fortunately, in South India, our traditional major monastic institution established in the Karnataka state, quite close here. So you can exploit these Tibetan scholars' knowledge. Very good. So recently I invited Aurangabad. A number of Buddhists there. But then, you see, they are so far only sort of follow Theravada tradition. Of course, wonderful, but not much use reasoning. So there also, I briefly mentioned about the Nalanda tradition, Sanskrit tradition, use human intelligence maximum way. That's important. Now here, and this knowledge, the original source from Buddhist text, but you should use these as an academic subject, not Buddhist subject. And sometimes not necessarily use Nalanda tradition, but simply use Sanskrit tradition. So one time, Kasadi, Chagupu Timari Kasa, Kasa Pejiri, Kasa.
Nagarjuna Konda.
Mari, such a being.
Amravati.
Amravati. You see, they already built one Buddha statue or something. And then, lower part, you see, they want to become sort of study room for study. Then I expressed my appreciation. Then I told them, Pali tradition, Thailand, Burma, Sri Lanka, Cambodia, Laos, they preserve perfectly. Wonderful. Now Sanskrit, traditionally China. Now China become communist country. With Tibet, now our freedom lost. The handful Tibetan now keep using this tradition. And Mongolia also now, recent, or say the decades, a lot of damage. Over 100,000 monks killed. Very difficult. But now with new freedom, the Mongolian also making some effort. I always telling them, study is very important. Some recitation, some holy text and ritual, important, but study. Recite these things with fuller knowledge, then good. Without the knowledge or the meaning, just recite is not much important. Now in reality, I think a handful Tibetan scholars, students, now in Karnataka state, these are the main sources of the Sanskrit tradition. So you already have some connection, so you should exploit our knowledge as much as you can. Okay. This is not a question of sort of change religious faith. This is just an academic subject. So faith, individual matter. These are the academic subject, something useful for humanity. My hope, India revive ancient Indian knowledge, then through education, some fuller knowledge about importance of wholeheartedness with intelligence. Now this India eventually can offer whole world through education in order to become more peaceful, more compassionate human being through education, not through prayer. I think India can show rest of the world. So there is a real potential. Now this is beginning of the 21st century. So if we start some systematic sort of program, then I think later part of 21st century, I think India can make a significant contribution for world peace through inner peace. Okay. So then, the Kharsa, Raja Morotra, the Kharsa, Sobat Min Kharsa, universal responsibility. When I received, you see, the Nobel laureate, when they announce come, so a number of people come to see me and ask me what I feel. And I just wrote, as a monk, you see, I'm Kasoda, no more, no less as just a monk. So, and then I express some kind of my appreciation to recognize some of my small contribution regarding peace, like that. That I express. Then when I reach Delhi, one of my Indian friend, first question is, what are you going to use those money? That's the first question, my Indian friend, as soon as I reached Delhi. I already made up, at that time, you see, I just have clear memory about Baba Amde's place. Oh, wonderful. Handicapped people, he organized and give them self-confidence and some because of leprosy. A few hands like that, but full of confidence because the organization look after them. Not look, you see, these people, not like that, equally treated them. So I very much impressed Baba Amde. So half of that money, you see, I donated to Baba Amde's Kasa society, like that. Then half money, I set up this organization. And he, long time my friend, so he look after this money. But sometimes I criticize, don't be sleepy way. Should be more active. So now this time is you, Kasota, full cooperation with this. And he can spend some money. Very good. So like that. So that's all. Thank you. Now I'm looking forward, you see, to education, your university, with cooperation, some Tibetan scholar. I think you can certainly make significant contribution regarding promotion of ancient Indian knowledge. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Holiness, for sharing your wisdom and firing the minds of our young students.